For more on these investigations, I want to turn to Liz Harrington, the national spokesperson for the Republican National Committee. So Liz, another day, and it seems like we're starting to see a slow trickle of information come out. I mean, it wasn't too long ago where you and I were talking about different notes released by Peter Strzok and other FBI agents, and now we're starting to see more notes pertaining to this Oval Office meeting involving more high-profile figures, whether it's President Barack Obama, Vice President Joe Biden, James Comey. We're starting to see a little bit more evidence coming out about the allegations Republicans have been making for years now. What's your response to what we've seen so far?
A clear picture is definitely emerging that by the book in the Obama-Biden White House was to, quote, have the right people investigate their political opponents. And we've known this for a very long time, that these were politically motivated. The evidence was there in the Strzok and Page text messages, and just the idea that they never had any evidence of anything that they were alleging against President Trump. So we've known a lot of this for a while, but now we're getting the documents and the hard evidence. And for Joe Biden to claim he knows nothing about this when it's his name that is associated with the Logan Act, which is a completely preposterous idea to use this 18th century law that's never been used to indict a single American against an incoming national security advisor that they were politically investigating as a Russian asset because of fake made up dirt by the Hillary Clinton campaign that was all a bunch of lies. This is amazing stuff. And it shows that January 4th, that same day that the FBI was supposed to close that bogus investigation against General Flynn, why was it suddenly kept open? Well, now we know Barack Obama and Joe Biden were definitely involved.
And, you know, even last night on social media, people were kind of sharing this theory, if you will, about the idea that this is based off a West Wing episode. And it seems ridiculous at first, but I have a very hard time believing that Joe Biden knew what the Logan Act was. I mean, that is something that you mentioned was so obscure. It's never been used, let alone in a case like this, that, I mean, I have no reason but to give credence to that type of speculation because it's such a weird thing to see. I mean, this has never been used, let alone against an incoming national security advisor. I think that is also an important point, too, for a phone call that, by the way, was made during the transition, not during the election. But now we see Democrats, for example, we saw what they did with the Mueller report, we saw what they did with the Ukraine impeachment scandal, and now we see them going after Attorney General Bill Barr. Why is he now in their focus?
Well, because he's doing a good job at upholding the law equally to both parties without rhyme or reason. Actually by the book. He didn't have to send an email to himself to do that. He's upholding, they're doing a thorough investigation with John Durham. There's no political interference, and you cannot say that was the case with the Strzok investigations, whether it was into Hillary Clinton's emails or the Trump campaign, with no legitimate basis. We're getting to the truth now, and that's why Democrats are so scared. That's why they're having to throw everything at Attorney General Barr. But the problem is they can't intimidate him. He has nothing to lose. He has dedicated his life to public service in the Justice Department. He came out of retirement to try to restore integrity into the Justice Department after it was so just sullied by the Obama-Biden White House. We're getting back to actual law and order under the Trump administration, and Democrats are really worried. And look at Barack Obama, what he said during that virtual fundraiser last night. He's very worried about Joe Biden not winning this election, and he's saying we have to do everything we can because they want to put the same people back in there, Susan Rice, Sally Yates, the whole cabal, because they don't want the truth to come out about how corrupt their administration was.
Yeah, in fact, Susan Rice is on the short list to be a VP. So, I mean, you're exactly right for saying that. They do want to return to the Obama type of practices. And I think that when we look at what Democrats are doing right now, for the past couple of months, they've kind of been ignoring this investigation, the Durham investigation and all of that. But now they are starting to give it a little bit more attention and pushing back. And I think that's because we are starting to see that Joe Biden is involved a little bit, as well as other members of the President Barack Obama's administration. So they're starting to say, we need to kind of control this narrative before it gets to November. And do you think that this is something, I mean, we saw Christopher Wray, for example, the FBI director, say that China is one of the biggest threats. We know that the Trump campaign hammers home those allegations against Joe Biden. Do you think this will be a big issue come November?
I think absolutely. When you talk about the biggest political lie ever pushed on the American people this collusion hoax, it was all lies. And our media and corrupt officials in our government spread that lie for years. But think about, that was a 2-year investigation. In the past 2 months, what we've learned from the actual documents, we learned the House Intelligence Committee transcripts. They knew there was no collusion. They never had any evidence despite lying publicly on cable news. We know that they went after these court filings. They corruptly went after General Flynn to get him to lie, to get him to prosecute and get him fired. That's what they did. Now we're learning exactly what happened in those Oval Office meetings. The truth is coming out, and people are so tired of it. And they're tired of what the Obama and Biden administration and all of those officials have lied for years. And people are going to want accountability.
Yeah, this whole thing is starting to come full circle a little bit, and it's interesting that all the same characters are once again re-entering the picture once again, whether it's people from the prior administration, people who were under investigation before. Now we see Michael Flynn getting his case, maybe perhaps some justice coming to him. It's a really interesting time, and I'm interested to see where we go moving forward. But Liz Harrington, always a pleasure speaking to you. Thanks for coming on tonight.